Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm bringing back an old meta titan from the past to see if it can still win in Season 23 of Go Battle League. And that Pokemon is Shadow Dragonair. Shadow Dragonair used to be an incredibly powerful Pokemon in the Open Great League. It was so strong that back in the day, it even won the European International Championship. However, these days, it's basically never seen. So today, I'm bringing back Shadow Dragonair with its adjusted move of Wrap to see if I can get wins with it at Leaderboard Elo. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches. And in game number 1, we see a type neutral lead, Shadow Dragonair into Galarian Moltres. Moltres is going to strike first with a fly. Shadow Dragonair is very, very frail, so I will commit the shield, look to overfarm, and then pick up the knockout with an Aqua Tail. My opponent is going to decide to let the Moltres go, and now they send out Shadow Scizor. This is incredibly good for me because I have a Talonflame in the back, and they're highly likely to protect the Scizor with a shield. It's time, unleash Talonflame. They're going to switch out sending in Quagsire, and I have Furret as my final Pokemon. And at this point, unfortunately for my opponent, there's just not a way for them to win this game, as the alignment is just simply way too favorable. I will be boosting up my attack with a Trailblaze. Opponent does get the shield call right, but unfortunately, it's just going to be too little too late. I even survive an Aqua Tail from this health range. I'm shielding just in case of a Rogue Stone Edge, but it is only going to be the Aqua Tail. This is now a boosted Swift, which means it should be enough to pick up the knockout. I Sucker Punch them into 1 Incinerate range and switch in the Talonflame. This means even despite Scizor's energy, they're only going to get 1 move. Night Slash, not going to threaten whatsoever, and we take the game 1 win. Moving into game number 2, we have Shadow Dragonair against Lapras. These Dragon Breaths are adding up quite a bit on the Lapras, but their Psy Waves are doing quite a lot of damage in return. So I will commit the shield. They do end up baiting with Sparkling Aria, and now I will fire off the Wrap for neutral damage and the guaranteed defense drop. Opponent safe switches into Fortress. I'm going to bank a ton of energy and then bring in Talonflame. I know that if I bring in Talonflame, I'm going to have to shield anyway, but I can overfarm quite a bit and still get a 1 shield farm down with the Talonflame, and I can exit with quite a lot of energy that can threaten the low health Lapras. In comes Lapras. If they want to keep this Lapras around, they're going to have to double shield. My opponent shields once, and this means whatever they have in back does not want to see a Talonflame with energy. My opponent ends up double shielding. They will throw a few Psy Waves and the Aria before the Incinerate lands, which is a pretty nice play from them. And now, I get to bring in Furret. My opponent will make a Sparkling Aria, but I tank this very comfortably, and now I'm pretty close to a move on both the Furret and the Shadow Dragonair. In the back, we see why they had to shield against that Talonflame, because in the back, they have a Fury Cutter Golisopod. Swift is going to land, switch into the Dragonair, and my opponent is forced to X-Scissor here to pick up the knockout. It turns out we actually caught the Aqua Jet, so that also works out as well. Aqua Tail is going to land. My opponent will get the farm down, but they just don't have the energy needed to make a move, so I send in Furret, and my opponent will resign the match. We see a very bad lead in the next match, Shadow Dragonair into Shadow Scizor. I'm going to stay in and try and go for a catch and sneak onto the Talonflame, but my opponent will not let that happen. They're going to send in Blastoise, and this is really, really bad. The more principled play would have been to just immediately send in the Furret, but I've seen people get this Incinerate, Catch, and Sneak technique against Scizors before, so I wanted to try it myself, but unfortunately, I did not get that prediction right. I bring in the Dragonair. I do live a Hydro Cannon, but not by much. Opponent knows this, and they go for the Skull Bash. And unfortunately, that probably just ends this game, as once you have a Talonflame switch locked onto a Blastoise, you're probably going to be losing. And my opponent getting the shield call right, in the fact that I would be full sending the Brave Bird, also just put them in a really good position. I Trailblaze, so hopefully I can farm something down while boosted in the endgame. They end up shielding, they can Hydro Cannon, fire off the energy with the Shadow Scizor, and I've just taken way too much damage. I will get the farm down. I don't even know what I could beat in the back. It would have to be a Mud Boy. It's not, it's a Furret, and I will concede the match. Shadow Dragonair into Shadow Quagsire. This is a pretty nice lead for the Dragonair. Opponent safe switches into Credilli, and this team is actually very, very soft to Credilli, so this is not an amazing spot to be in. Aqua Tail is going to be shielded, as Credilli will be able to apply a ton of pressure with Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb would probably just cleanly knock out Dragonair. Honestly, since I haven't used Dragonair in ages, I forgot just how frail this Pokemon is. This Pokemon is basically shielding every charge move that lands on it. My opponent will let the second Aqua Tail go now that it's debuffed, and I will end up playing for alignment, because I need to have the Quagsire aligned onto that Furret. They're going to bring back in the Quagsire. Even though I'm double debuffed, I will go for the Wrap. Wrap obviously comes with a defense drop as well, ramping back up my Dragon Breaths, and my opponent will fire off the Aqua Tail to pick up the KO. So down goes Dragonair, in comes Furret. Opponent is going to send out Air/Mandibuzz as their final Pokemon. This should be very, very playable for Talonflame, because the downside of Mandibuzz, it has amazing bulk, it just never really does a lot of damage. So in these neutral matchups, even down a shield, Talonflame should be pretty okay. I go for the fly, they call the bait, but I can make it to fly number 2. Whether they shield this move or not, I think Furret just seals their fate. They no shield the fly, they are able to survive, but this foul play will not be enough to knock out. They're going to bring back in the Quagsire, I send in Furret, and I will be firing off the Trailblaze. I'm just going to ramp up my Sucker Punches and look to try and brute force farm them down. So now they will fire off energy here. It is going to be the Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail does not two-shot, 1 Sucker Punch KOs, and we take the win. We see an unbelievably good lead in the next match. Shadow Dragonair into Lantern, and the Lantern is not switching out. What could they possibly have back there that necessitates staying into this nightmarish matchup? I fire off the Wrap, that gets the defense drop, as it always does, and now this can set up a very easy farm down for the Dragonair. They go for the Thunderbolt. There's going to be a pivot out into Lapras. Lapras, I'll get to debuff it with a Wrap, and then I can bring out Furret. Furret, obviously going to have a great matchup into the Lapras. Lapras farms up a ton of energy. In case they do have a Skull Bash, I am actually going to be respecting this. It does only end up being a Sparkling Aria, and now I don't even have to go for the Trailblaze. They're already so low that I can just fire off a Swift. The Swift does get shielded. My opponent going to connect with a Sparkling Aria. They just want to get some damage onto the Furret, but that is definitely okay by me. They're going to send in Primeape as their final Pokemon, and now Primeape, it doesn't have to shield the Swift, but at some point, they're going to need to invest in the HP of the Primeape, so they will put up that shield. Had they let it go, I could have just farmed down with Incinerates. Now that they shielded, I will actually need to throw a Fly. I can't overfarm here. If I do 1 extra Incinerate, they will get to a +2 Rage Fist, so I'm forced to just undertap the Fly and take the knockout. Switch clocks are heavily misaligned here. My opponent should always catch the Fly onto Lapras, but in doing so, this is actually just fine for me, because I needed to get rid of the Lapras anyway, and I just have too much health on both the Furret and the Dragonair, so I can bring in the Furret, farm down, and take the win. We've got a fun match in the next game as I'm battling against FP Sticks. Great lead, Shadow Dragonair into Talonflame. There's going to be a safe switch into Furret. I don't have a great response to a Furret safe swap, so after banking a bunch of energy on Dragonair, I bring out Talonflame. With Talonflame, my goal here is just to get myself as low as possible. If my opponent really wants to make a play for a switch advantage, that's fine by me. So I will go for the Brave Bird to ensure that the next Sucker Punch should knock out. FP is just going to play for getting a 1 Incinerate head start on Talonflame. So Talonflame is going to farm down my Talonflame, and now I get to send out Dragonair. In the back is Credilli, and this game is looking like a win. Credilli will get to spam out Rock Tombs. I'll get to return fire with Trailblazes to undo the debuffs that they are applying. So I will go for the Trailblaze. This Trailblaze never going to do a ton of damage to the Credilli, but it's all about just undoing those debuffs and making sure that my Sucker Punches do as much damage as possible. So here, I should be able to throw 5 Sucker Punches, go for the Trailblaze, take the knockout, and then Dragonair will pretty comfortably sweep this game. So I fire off the Trailblaze, down goes Credilli, I switch into the Dragonair thinking it was dead, but it lived on 1 HP. They get the Rock Tomb, they get the damage registration error, so the Dragon Breath does not KO until after the move, and then unfortunately, I just lose the game. Oh, that is a devastating way to lose a game. Even if they did live on 1, which they did, the Dragon Breath is supposed to snipe down there, but unfortunately, the damage registration error forcing the final shield means that I will lose, because Furret's Swift does not knock out the Talonflame. Talonflame makes it to the Fly, and unfortunately, we're going to lose this. What a heartbreaking game. I thought the Credilli had fainted, but even if it didn't faint, the DB still should have been able to snipe there. Oh my goodness. That's a game that slipped away from me. That absolutely should have been a win. We move to the next match, and we actually see two blasts from the past here. Shadow Dragonair versus Shadow Feraligatr. This, back in the day, was a pretty common matchup, but now Feraligatr, not nearly as common as it once was, and Dragonair is basically non-existent. Here, my opponent is just going to look to try and force a shield advantage. I'm pretty okay with this because the backline is designed to play well with switch advantage. My opponent is now going to bring out a Azumarill. This is a little bit tricky. I'm going to bank a ton of energy on the Dragonair and bring out Furret. I don't know what they have in the back, but I think Dragonair energy could be valuable. So they're going to land the Play Rough, and now it's Clodsire as the reveal for their final Pokemon. Clodsire, not what Furret wants to see, but I can boost up my attack quite a bit with Trailblaze. My opponent, I'm expecting, is just going to build up to the back-to-back Sludge Bombs. Trailblaze number 2 is going to land, and they're getting pretty low, but they throw on 11. This means they are one off the back-to-back. They don't have it, and that means that I can just throw both Aqua Tails with the Dragonair. So I bring back in the Dragonair, fire off the Aqua Tail, they shield, and it's charge attack priority, and Clodsire is just getting KO'd here. So they lose that Sludge Bomb. In comes the Azumarill. I could have probably just switched instantly into the Talonflame, but I didn't think that a Brave Bird would quite KO, so I will go for the Wrap to ensure that a move will KO, and I know that one Ice Beam is not going to be particularly threatening to Talonflame. I should be able to even take a second Ice Beam if they get there, but they don't, so I will get to the Brave Bird, and Talonflame will be able to take this win. Brave Bird is massive overkill, but at the very least, it guarantees the win. We move to the next game, and disaster has struck. Shadow Dragonair into the Pokemon that's not supposed to exist, Dedenne. Dedenne beats my entire team. It thrashes Dragonair, it destroys Furret, and it destroys Talonflame as well. However, landing that Aqua Tail does give Dragonair a bit of play here. I have gotten them into the yellow health, and I get the shield call right on the Play Rough. Dragonair does have a pacing advantage. If I can just always get the shields right on Play Roughs, I feel like I might be in an okay spot. So now, this is a tough call. Will they bait? Will they full send? I shield. It's a parabolic charge, and that's not what I was hoping to see. I'm going to be firing off another Aqua Tail. If they shield, I'm going to be catching the Play Rough onto Talonflame. So I go for the catch, but they hold on to the energy, and now they can parabolic charge the Talon. Oh, that is devastating. My goodness. In comes Golisopod. Golisopod versus Talonflame. Oh no. Talonflame, unfortunately, not going to be winning that charge attack priority tie. Golisopod picks up the KO. That can potentially be IV dependent, but I have a very good Talon. So unfortunately, I will always be losing that cap tie. Now I'm forced to bring out Furret. Furret is going to be hit with an Aqua Jet, and that will hit for quite a lot of damage. I go for the Trailblaze. Opponent is going to make a catch onto Kanto Marowak. This game might be winnable. I'm going to throw 2 and the move. If this boosted Swift KOs, I'm in a position to win this game. The Swift lands. They live on 1. Oh no, this is bad. In comes Golisopod. They get the farm down. In comes Dragonair, and my fast move is denied. I don't get the Dragon Breath through. X-Scissor lands, and I lose on 1 HP. If I didn't get denied on the Dragonair bring-in, then it would have been a tie. Oh, that is such a frustrating end to a game. We move to the next match, and we're again greeted with Golisopod. Golisopod is taking more damage from the Dragon Breath than they're dealing with Fury Cutters. I go for the Aqua Tail. Opponent ends up catching onto a Dusclops. I'm very happy to see a Dusclops safe switch, as now I can bank a ton of energy from the Dragonair and then send out Furret. They're low enough here that I'm not even going to be throwing energy with the Furret. I think Furret will actually have a lot more value just going for a full farm down. Dusclops is going to make a lot of moves, but since Furret completely walls off the hexes, they can't really do a whole lot of anything. Here, I'm expecting my opponent will try and bring in Golisopod and go for the snipe, so I watch for it, I see the switch in, and I get to fire off the Swift. Swift KOs Golisopod, denying that energy. They were so close to a charge attack. That is a big swing in my favor. In the back is going to be Shadow Drapion, and at this point, this game is a win. I'm able to force the shield with the move from Furret, and now back in comes Shadow Dragonair. I fire off the Aqua Tail. There is going to be the shield. I just need to get to my next Aqua Tail. Opponent will have to try and go for a catch in this game, so I'm just not going to throw my move. I'm just going to overfarm. There's the catch attempt. They get farmed down. No, I don't get to throw my wrap, and they will concede the match. Hopping into the final match, we have Shadow Dragonair into Shadow Steelix. Thank goodness the Steelix is on Thunderfang. Steelixes love to throw right away, so I actually go for a CMP tie here. The CMP tie covers for them potentially getting a Breaking Swipe debuff. So I land the Aqua Tail, that does big damage. They go for Psychic Fangs, and now in comes Dusclops. Dusclops is going to get its move caught onto Furret. Let's go. We are loving these Dusclops safe switches, as Furret just absolutely demolishes this poor Mon. Dusclops will now get to fire off an Ice Punch. Ice Punch, not a move that Furret cares about whatsoever. Furret will go for the Trailblaze and a full farm down. The Trailblaze is going to land. That will set up the farm. Opponent will make one final charge attack, but Furret will still tank whatever it is. It only ends up being a Shadow Punch. In comes Steelix, and I'm just getting rid of the Steelix or grabbing a shield with Trailblaze. Trailblaze into the Steelix lands, picking up the knockout. In the back is Wigglytuff, and this game is so over. I will fire off the double boosted Swift to force the shield, and the moment I send in Talonflame, the opponent should resign. So I bring in the Talonflame, the opponent not resigning, which is a huge surprise to me. But either way, there's no way that Wigglytuff is going to beat a Talonflame, so I'm in a very comfortable spot to close out this game. I get to fire off the Fly. Fly is going to be shielded. Opponent playing it out to the bitter end, but we're still going to take the win with both shields remaining. Fly KOs that Wigglytuff, and that's a good game. And now that I've got to play quite a few sets with Shadow Dragonair, let's talk about results and how I feel about the Mon in the meta. Well, at the time of recording, I was in the mid to upper 2900s from start to finish. Overall, I would say that I went about even with this team. I do think that Shadow Dragonair can definitely catch some teams off guard. A lot of the fire, water, grass types of cores, really not a big fan of Shadow Dragonair. And considering that at the time of recording, the elo that I'm at's around top 250 in the world, I feel like that's a pretty solid showing for a good friend, Shadow Dragonair. However, the downside is that I think that what Shadow Dragonair does at the current moment is basically just entirely eclipsed by Regidrago. Regidrago is just so much better at being a neutral spam of dragon damage. It has dragon charge moves as well, so it has dragon energy if your shield's down, and breaking swipe, which can apply debuffs. And unlike the glassy Dragonair, it can actually take hits, so you're not necessarily always forced into a shield disadvantage like when you're using Shadow Dragonair. So I did have a lot of fun with Shadow Dragonair. I think at the current moment, we do see in these battles why it's a Pokemon that isn't really used, because in a comp when you're trying to kind of brute force alignment with dragon damage, Regidrago is just kind of superior. But hey, I just really like Shadow Dragonair as a Pokemon, so I still had a lot of fun in these sets. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching content like this, please do consider leaving a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.